Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to day 3 of our Safety Week. I'm Mo Wise. I'm the chair of the Education Committee, and I'm honored to introduce our speaker for today. Tracy Hawkins, known to many of you as the Safety Lady, founded her company, Safety and Security Source, in 1995. Her safety programs focus on personal safety, home security, and auto safety on the road. Tracy has spoken at the NAR National Conference in 2021 and was also selected by RIS Media as a newsmaker in 2022. I'm privileged to introduce Tracy Hawkins. Please take it away, Tracy.
Thank you, Mo. And also, before I forget, I was selected again for the NAR annual conference in 2022. So I hope to see some of you all in Orlando. I am a former real estate agent. And as a matter of fact, I have a twin sister. She and I got our real estate licenses, I want to say about 34, 35 years ago. She is still an agent. And I decided that that wasn't necessarily the path for me. So I started a safety business and I sold pepper spray and alarms. I still do. And then I also opened a store in a mall. And after a while, it's like I got restless. It's like I need to be talking. And I am here in Kansas City. My sister said no one's talking to us about safety. So the light bulb went off. I started talking all over Kansas City, every office, every company, our association. Next thing you know, it was on a national level. Not a lot of people do what I do, and they don't do it the way I do it. So I am so happy to be here. One thing I had an opportunity to do is to check out what you all are doing, and I am amazed. The reason I am here is that the National Association of Realtors has mandated that all associations and boards must have some kind of safety education. With that being said, it's impressive to me when I look at your lineup of your safety week. First of all, I don't know of any other association that does a whole week of safety, so kudos to you all for that. And when I look closely, I see true subject matter experts. You don't understand how big of a deal that is, that your leadership here has decided to only choose subject matter experts to teach you important information, life-saving and safety information. So again, virtual high five, virtual hugs, kudos. This is not the norm. So I am so happy to be able to work with an association that values expertise. There are a lot of crimes that happen in the real estate community about crimes against agents, a lot of crimes that happen and agents don't know about it. I live and breathe real estate safety. Safety is what I do. I happen to do programs for seniors, college students, just people in general, but real estate safety is my area of expertise. So I try to know all of the crimes, all of the up-to-date resources regarding safety and real estate agents and the community, including brokers. I created a book on Facebook called The Safety and Security Source for Real Estate. And I'll show you this later on so that you can join that group. That way, when there are crimes against real estate agents, you will be among the first to know. Not only that, but you'll get the resources, the articles that I write, the safety tips to keep you safe. So that is ground zero for real estate safety news and information. I will never forget talking to an education director a few years back, and it's like, I need to get there. I need to talk about safety to your agents. And she said, not a good business decision. It's like, what are you talking about? She said, it would be great if you could come and talk about safety, but it's not a good business investment. She said, the only way to get agents to show up for safety training is if you're teaching any kind of training, is if you're teaching them how to make more money. True. So what I did is I put on my thinking cap. I created the country's only real estate safety designation, the Consumer Safety and Security Specialist. That consists of 2 CE classes where I am telling agents how to not only work safely to make it home every night, but how to use it to build your business, how to protect the consumer. Of course, we don't have a full day here. I have you for a couple of hours. So what I am going to do is I'm going to highlight some of the business building tools, share them with you so that you can leave today knowing not only how to work safely in an actionable, realistic manner, but how to protect the consumer and use that to build your business. As a solopreneur in a field that is a different kind of field, I have to fight very, very hard to get anywhere, even here with you all. So I'm going to show you how to use that kind of determination to build your business. And I think you all have about 11,000 agents, keeping in mind that there are 1.5 million realtors. So I want to give you an edge and teach you how to compete and how to serve the consumer with the information that I'm going to share with you. How many of you all have heard of the Beverly Carter story? Can I get a yes in the chat? Just a real quick yes. And then let me know, please, how many people are saying yes so I can get an idea. If you've heard of the Beverly Carter story, just in the chat, give me a quick yes.
Overwhelming yeses.
Okay, good. I guess I could have said yes or no. Let me briefly summarize. Beverly Carter was a real estate agent in Little Rock, Arkansas. She got a phone call from a prospective buyer. He said he was a cash buyer. And you all know what we do in the real estate world when we hear cash buyer, right? She made that appointment. And after a while, she started thinking, she was like, I'm not comfortable. Something's wrong here. And the reason I know that is I had an opportunity to interview her office mate. Beverly started thinking that it just didn't feel right meeting this guy alone. So what she did is she called him back. She said, I'm not comfortable meeting you alone. He said, oh, don't worry. My wife will be there with us. We now know, of course, that it was his accomplice. So she met at the property. When she got there, it was just him. And what he said at that point is, my wife had to work. Let's just pull her up on FaceTime and she'll walk through the property with us. And we learned that those were the last images on Beverly's phone. The goal was to kidnap her for ransom. And I don't know if any of you all can go in the chat, tell me why this guy picked Beverly Carter. Can anyone just type in there the reason when they interviewed him, why did he say he chose Beverly Carter as his victim? And when we hear his answer, it's going to help us learn what criminals may or may not be looking for. So let me know when you see something.
Okay,
there.
chat says easy target photo. She looked like she had money. Agents are rich.
Exactly. I mean, yes, he said she was a rich agent who worked alone. And having since had an opportunity to hear her story, hear more about it, I know that it wasn't necessarily the case regarding finances at the time, but there's a perception in the industry that you all are rich. You all talk about how many millions you sell each month, and people don't realize that you don't get that whole million. So your image, the image that you portray is that you are rich. So their goal was to kidnap her. The plans went wrong and they ended up killing her. But Beverly did some things right, and we're going to talk about those. As a result, her family sued the real estate company for negligence. Her family said if there had been some kind of safety training, we believe Beverly would be here now. This is where that light bulb comes on again. And I said, what can I do? So I created a safety training for brokers, managers, and owners where I'm teaching how to not get sued successfully. Here are things you can do, what you can put in place to protect your business. That means your four walls, the contents inside, the people, not just the agents. And how do we set up safe practices for real estate agents to reduce liability and increase recruitment as well as morale? And that's what I did. I created that training class and I wrote a handbook, and it's the only handbook, the Safe Practices Handbook for real estate brokerages. Question: who can tell me a risk involved in being a real estate agent? So right there in the chat, give me a risk that you face in your job as a real estate agent. Something that you think about when you walk out of the door, when you go to work every day. What is a risk, a danger of your job?
Being alone in a home.
Okay. See if we get another one or two.
Being grabbed when out, meeting people in empty houses, being with strangers.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you all for chiming in. Your job description reads that you make a living meeting complete strangers in empty houses. You make a living sitting in empty houses and you're waiting for strangers to walk in. How does that sound? You probably are not surprised to know that the U.S. Department of Labor considers real estate sales and leasing a high-risk, hazardous occupation. It's up there with the convenience store clerk, with Uber, taxi drivers, law enforcement officials, security guards. And based on your job description, there's no surprise. I'm not here to scare you, but I am here to give you the tools to overcome those safety issues and to do your jobs safely, make it home every night, and productive, be more productive doing so. What I wanted to talk about, what I always start with, are lessons learned. These are stories about crimes against real estate agents. This is the topic that the National Association of Realtors selected me to speak about last year. And what I have found is that it's easier to relate to a story when you can actually put yourself in their place and you see things that you have done. And the way I do this, I had a criticism. Someone said, "You're just telling stories. We want to hear practices. We want to hear how to be safe." There are more lessons to be learned when you can relate to it. For example, let's say the house across the street is burglarized. The question is, do you do anything differently? Of course you do. You turn on your lights at night, you lock your doors, you may even get an alarm system. So knowing something happened to someone like you makes you know that it can happen to you, so you're more likely to do something different. If a neighbor's car gets stolen, you're going to lock your car, you're going to double check, you're going to park in the garage, you're going to take different steps. So that's the concept of the lessons learned portion of today's program. I'm going to share some stories. We're not only going to talk about the crimes against the agent, and we're always careful to never, ever blame the victim. But what we're going to do is we're going to learn lessons from those crimes, safe practices, and how to make sure they're not repeated. First one is a real estate broker or agent who was evicting tenants from a property that he managed. And keep in mind that property management safety is top of mind now. My sister is not only a realtor, but she's also a property owner, investor, a landlord, housing provider. And if anyone who's involved in that trade, during the eviction moratorium, landlords were targeted. My sister included, from the guillotine, your neck would look great there. There was a bullseye on her. So I know property management is a concern. In this situation, he was evicting tenants, and this was even before the eviction moratorium. He was killed right there on site. In Colorado, a real estate agent was standing in a property, and the guy who was supposed to be a buyer, he pulls out a knife and a can of Bear pepper spray. This real estate agent pulled out a gun and she shot at him. She survived. So the lesson learned there is, if you have a weapon, first of all, know how to use it. Number two, practice. And number three, be willing to use the weapon. I can't tell you how many times I've had agents come up and say, my husband or my spouse wants me to have a gun, but I'm not comfortable with it. In those situations, don't do it, because you're not going to be comfortable using it. You're not going to use it. And those are the situations where more than likely that weapon is going to be taken from you. So whatever your weapon, whether it's pepper spray or gun, whatever your weapon is, and we're going to talk about weapons towards the end, be comfortable with it, practice, have it accessible, and use it. And then I know you all are familiar with this story about the real estate agent who had an open house, and a guy came in and he was acting a little weird, but he left. Next weekend, open house again. And then this time she said, "Look, you're not here to see the house. You have to go." She survived. Here's what happened. She knew that there was a camera outside. So she was able to get him out on the porch in view of the camera. You can see that grassy area, and she is blurred there. He pushed her down there and he assaulted her. I can still hear her blood curdling screams. I can hear them now. So the lesson learned there, what she did right to survive. Number one, her instinct said something was wrong. She was not afraid to tell him, "You have to go." She was not worried about hurting his feelings, was not worried about being polite. Her safety came first. She said, "You have to go." Number two, she was familiar with the property where she knew there was a camera to catch his image. And number three, when he pushed her down, she knew that criminals are cowards. Her screaming was enough to draw attention. People may not run to your rescue. I always say that, whether it's a car alarm, a personal alarm, or a scream, they may not run to your rescue. But what will happen is that the criminal doesn't want witnesses. So he stopped, she survived. I wrote an article for Realtor magazine that talked about the things that she did right to survive that crime. What I'm going to do at the end today is to give you a link so that you can find the articles that I reference, and you can find the resources that I talk about. So don't worry right now about taking notes. I'm going to share that with you at the very end. In Houston, got a phone call. Real estate agent there was getting harassing phone calls. And this happens across the country. And I see the news and I hear about it throughout the country, but this happened to be in Houston at the time. This agent got a phone call. Started out as a regular business guy. Everything was fine. It sounded like real business. Then he started talking inappropriately. Next thing you know, he is getting personal. She said, look, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. He said, I am going to rape you. He said, nope, no more. My husband is answering my calls from now on. He said, I will kill you both. At that point, she went to law enforcement officials. So the lessons learned here, number one, is if you get a harassing phone call, take it seriously. You don't just block it and move on. Take it seriously. Number one, block the call. Or number two, block the call. And then don't just leave it there. Report it to your real estate company, and then either they or you will report it to your association. And the most important step is to report it to law enforcement officials. How many times have I heard agents say, well, it's not a big deal, I don't want to bother them? That is literally their job. It is not up to you to decide whether or not it's a crime or worth reporting. Let law enforcement officials do their jobs. So they will report it to law, they will take a report if it warrants a report, let them do their jobs. And then finally, after she reported it to law enforcement officials, they were able to determine that this had happened to over 100 agents over the past decade. So agents were being targeted by this person, maybe the same person, maybe a different person, but agents were being targeted. So the goal is to let someone know. Now, what you can't do is that you can't go around and say, hey, everybody, this guy is horrible. And I saw on Facebook, some agent said, I'm going to post on there a picture of a guy who's bothering me. I'm going to let everybody know his name and I'm going to spread it far and wide. I had to say, stop. That's going to get you in trouble. What you need to know is that that could get you in trouble with libel issues. So what the National Association of Realtors is saying is there are certain procedures that you need to follow. Your association knows what those procedures are. And the number one thing is to get a police report number, because whatever's contained in that report is public information. So you can reference that information and the report number, but under no circumstances are you to share information. Last year, or was it 2000, a couple of years ago, 2020, and the last couple of years, of course, blend in. But in 2020, this real estate agent was in an open house and the guy was acting a little weird. He came back in the house with a wrench. He hit her in the face and head area 10 to 12 times. That real estate agent survived. That real estate agent happened to be a black belt. So the lesson learned there, the safety practice there, is if you're going to take any kind of safety training, self-defense training, one class is not enough. You can't say, oh, I went to that one class and now I know what I need to know. Not enough. What you need to do is you need to take more than one class. Let it, they talk about muscle memory. The more you know, the better you are at it. The more you practice, the easier it's going to be to get that, to recall that information and protect yourself. One and done is not enough. Now, you don't have to go to the extent to become a black belt, but you need to know that this is life-saving information. So take more than one class. And she survived. So good for her. The exact same thing that happened to Beverly Carter happened to a real estate agent named Monique Bao in Minneapolis. New Year's Eve 2020, she got a phone call from a stranger, met a stranger in an empty house. She was kidnapped and she was murdered. We're going to talk today about ways to keep that from happening, because the reason the Beverly Carter story resonated so much is because she did what all of us have done, what Monique did. So many of us, myself included, we've done as real estate agents. So we're going to talk about safe workarounds. And I just got back from here, Iowa, right near Omaha, and met some agents who knew Mickey. Mickey, just like our very first story, went to a property that he managed. He was killed on site at the property and his body was stuffed and hidden in the crawl space. In Nashville, this real estate agent was out front unlocking a lockbox with his client standing there, and a teenager approached with a gun and said, "Run for your life." Now that real estate agent thought, do I try this? But then he decided to run for his life. He threw his car keys and he took off running. He survived. So the safety practice here, the lesson learned here is his gut said, flight or flight. It was flight. He took off. By throwing his car keys, the criminal, of course, stole his car. But he had his iPad in his car with the location enabled. He was able to retrace and tell law enforcement officials where to find his vehicle. So a couple of lessons learned there. And by now you're thinking, oh, these stories, they're hard to hear. And yes, they are. Imagine me, this is my world. But I find value in telling you stories that are happening in broad daylight, big city, small towns, letting you know that these crimes are happening everywhere. But my goal is that they don't continue happening. So I got to share with you the information. And this one is probably close to you as well. The two real estate agents and the home inspector who went to the property of the siblings who were in a dispute about whether or not to sell the property. And the sibling who decided not to sell shot the two agents as well as the home inspector, killing the home inspector. So the lesson learned there, and we talk so often about having that first meeting. During the pandemic, so many places were closed. I know California was. Here in Kansas City, it was closed. As I travel across the country, it amazes me how many places never closed. Business was business as usual, but those places that were closed, there were some invaluable lessons learned there. One of the lessons learned is the importance of that first meeting. That first meeting is a great time to assess a couple of things. First and foremost, the client's background, their information. Are they able to afford this property? Number two, you can assess the mindset, the motivation. Are they motivated to sell? Or in this situation, it may have been obvious that there was a hostile interaction there, and you might have thought differently before entering that property. So a first meeting also allows you to be more productive, and I'm going to tell you how. Now, when I first saw this story, I wondered, is this a safety story? Is this one that I need to cover? And then I started thinking about it. This real estate agent went to work and he had guns drawn on him. His hands were cuffed behind his back by law enforcement officials. But all the same, he went to work that day like so many other agents do. And I put the question out on social media. It's like, have any of you all ever had the police call when you were working? I was surprised. I had male, female agents, agents of all races say, this has happened to me. My sister even had the police call, but that's because they triggered the alarm. But other agents have said that people didn't know what was going on and they called the police. So my question was, how do you prevent it? So I'm asking you all in the chat section, tell me, how can you as a real estate agent prevent having the police call when you show up to show a property? So just quickly type out a step that you can take that will avoid neighbors, anyone calling the police. And then if you'll let me know when you see some answers there. What can you do to make sure that doesn't happen on your next showing?
Wear a real estate badge, shirt, name tag.
Excellent, excellent. Then real estate company badge, or like you said, a shirt with the logo. I had heard an agent say, wrap your vehicle. So that means your whole vehicle has your company logo, your real estate agent markings, very obvious, and on your vehicle. So when you pull up, there's no question. Some agents just will not wrap their vehicles. So in those situations, a magnet on the door when you are working is ideal. I thought it'd be a great idea just to put a magnet on at all times. It's good promotion. I had a couple of agents say to me, oh, no. With stalking issues, I heard two stories of agents who were driving around town who were stalked as a result of those magnets on their doors and the information contained therein. So in those situations, when you get to the property, stick the magnets on the side of the door. That way neighbors, anyone looking out, police, anyone driving by, driving up will know without a question that there is a real estate agent inside. And like one of you said, I had an agent who said, as soon as I pull up, she said, if I see anybody outside, she said, hey neighbor, I'm a real estate agent. Nice to meet you. She said, I am loud and I want everyone to know I am an agent and I am here. She also used that as an opportunity to hand out her business card. So they're looking for a real estate agent. So the bottom line is you can prevent the police from being called by being a good neighbor and just increasing your awareness that people are scared in these days and in this day and age. So whatever you can do. The most recent real estate agent who was killed on the job happened, I want to say last year. This real estate agent sold the house sight unseen to a buyer, and the buyer, I want to say, was about 85 or so. And then when the buyer finally got to the house and moved in, he decided that he wanted to return the house. The real estate agent went over, he shot and killed the agent, and then he turned the gun on himself. I shared this story at the NAR conference last year, and I had a real estate agent who was close to the situation say, Tracy, the way to prevent that is to never, ever allow a virtual closing without them actually seeing the property right up front. Here's what I know. My sister was able to close a $1 million deal without them stepping foot on the property. So I know it can be done safely, but what you have to think about is every once in a while, there may be a client with an issue who may be unstable or who just may be angry. And that's not always realistic. So if you can arrange an in-person viewing before they sign the papers, that is a situation that you may be able to alleviate. You probably saw this one. This was last in July. This real estate agent in a model home, when a guy was inside acting different, he left, she locked the door. He was trying to open windows and everything. And then she locked the door and he came back, he busted the door open and she was in the closet hiding on the phone, telling a friend or a sibling or a spouse, that she needed help. And then he pulled her out and assaulted her. And what happened is that help came. So she survived that situation. And there was another crime about and this was August. And these crimes, again, they don't all make the national headlines, but they're happening and they're out there. We know there is a problem with homelessness in this country. We also know that even before it became an epic problem, that people were squatting in properties and doing things they have no business doing. So that happened. A real estate agent was just touring the property and there was someone hiding inside of the house when she was showing clients. So the crimes are happening on a regular basis. My job is that I don't see another one of those headlines. If we can prevent it, I want us to learn lessons from those stories. I have a theme, and my theme is that you should lead with safety. How do you distinguish yourself from the other 11,000 agents in your association? How do you stand out? How do you compete? I say be the real estate agent who's always talking about safety, your safety, the consumer safety. Your conversation should always have some kind of safety component from the first conversation. I'd love to meet you, but our policy or my policy, my team's policy is our safety policy is that we must have a first meeting. It could be virtual. Let's jump on a real quick FaceTime or let's do a real quick Zoom meeting. And after the pandemic, that's another lesson we learned from the pandemic. Everyone had to learn how to be social using virtual, whether it's a FaceTime or Google Duo or Zoom. My mom learned to be virtual. So no excuses now. People before could say, I don't know how to do it. In order to stay sane, safe, and in some cases in business, you all had to learn to be virtual. So you can say we can have a virtual real quick first meeting. That way I can get to know you, you can know me, and then I can find out a little bit about what you're looking for. What I like to do is to find a way to be more productive. How do we build a little business into each safe practice? So that means we're going to share screens. During our first meeting, criminals first realize that their image is on a screen. If you'll notice the stories we talked about, crimes against agents, these agents were alone. Criminals do that on purpose. There's no one to identify them. So they're alone. So in some cases, you can't help but to be alone. I'm going to tell you how to use technology to solve that problem. But right up front, you're telling criminals, maybe would be criminals, maybe buyers, we don't know yet, or even sellers. We have to be careful of sellers, and we'll talk about that as well. Our first meeting needs to be virtual or in a public place. Now, I have heard safety experts saying, meet at a coffee shop. I'm here to say, no, that's not the answer. The point of a virtual first meeting is to increase witness potential. Criminals know that if someone sees them and they can identify them, they're likely to get caught. So that's why they do anything that they can to avoid meeting in public, to avoid that first meeting. So if they question you when you say our safety practice, my brokerage, my safety practice, that we have this first meeting, and if they question it, then you have to wonder what their intent is. Had an opportunity to talk to a real estate agent who said that she was going to meet clients for the first time. She said, and she set up the appointment to show the property. And then she started thinking about it, like, what am I doing? I don't know these people. So what that agent did is she called back. She said, look, let's meet in my office first instead of going to the property. The guy said, what are you talking about? She said, let's just come by my office if you don't mind. We'll just sit for a few moments. Let me get some information from you, find out a little bit more about what else you're looking for so that I can better serve you. He said, that's crazy. We have to drive by the house to get to your office. It just doesn't make sense. At that point, she said, look, I don't know you from Adam. If that were your wife, your mother, your sister, your daughter, wouldn't you want them to meet a stranger before showing? His next question was, what time do we need to be at your office? Think about the power of that, the power of just being honest. I don't know you, you don't know me. This is for your safety, this is for my safety. So that's a way to lead with safety. Every conversation after that can have a safety component. I believe that being the local real estate agent who always talks about safety and security can give you an edge and help you grow your business. We don't have time to cover that specifically today, but I did write an article for the close outlining ways to use safety to build your business. And we're going to touch upon it in our limited time today, some of the ways that you can do it to put action into practice starting today. I got this question, yes, no, in the comments. How many of you all will pick up a hitchhiker? Just in the chat section, yes, no, who's picking up a hitchhiker? And as I wait for the answers to come in, this is where usually in a classroom, everyone's looking at me like I have two heads. But
No way.
No
Never,
way.
they say.
Exactly. And that's usually the answer. So with that in mind, you have a listing, it has a sign out front. Someone drives by and they decide they want to see that listing. You get a phone call. Someone says, I want to see that listing. You make an appointment. You show up at that property to meet that complete stranger alone. Can anyone tell me if there is a safety difference from picking up that complete stranger on the side of the road, putting them in the car with you, or meeting a complete stranger in an empty house? Is there a safety difference? Yes, no.
No, it's the same.
Everybody's going to say no.
Mhm.
But if you think about it, one of them you're willing to do as a regular part of your business, you don't hesitate for one moment. What's the difference? What is the reason that you know both of these are dangerous practices, but one of them you would never do, and the other one, you do it on a regular basis? Who can name the reason why you're willing to do one, but not the other?
Money.
Exactly. Point blank. Money, a commission, the possibility of earning commission, you are willing to do something that is dangerous. And then when I ask the question, who's done this? And I tell everybody, raise your hands, because we've all done it. All of us have. It needs to stop. And I can't just tell you to stop without giving you the tools to tell you how to make up for it. And that's what we're going to do today. After the pandemic, I thought the rules changed about having clients, consumers in the car with you. I thought the rule had changed. It's not happening. It's not happening because, first of all, we were going through this pandemic and we know that that virus, that it is contagious, right? So after that, it's like, nope, no more clients in the car. Before the pandemic, what we would talk about is that if you have a client in the car, you better check them out. Make sure you vet them very carefully before you have them in the car, because again, it's the same thing as a hitchhiker, right? That means working with your lender, making sure your lender has done their due diligence, that they have verified they live where they say they live, they work where they say they work, because that helps reduce some of the danger. But one thing we have to keep in mind is that criminals buy houses too. So that's just one element that we need to watch out for. So during the pandemic, no one was riding in cars with anyone. That just wasn't happening, except in South Dakota. And I know that because when I was there, we were talking about this, and I had an agent say, clients riding the car with me. This was in 2020, safety month during 2020. He said, clients riding the car with me all the time. It's like, okay, but you guys are at least masked. And he said, no, not unless they want to. So what I'm saying is the pandemic gave agents who needed an excuse to say, you know, just follow me. You know, for everyone's safety, just follow me. I promise I won't drive fast. So it opened a door and gave you an excuse as a way to to work in a safe manner. So that, as you'll find out, we look for reasons, we look for excuses, and we look for safety tools, whatever we can use to help keep us safe. We are going to play a game, and I want you all to get ready to type into your chat section. Here's the question. How can you tell if someone means you harm? I can't tell you how many times agents have said, I can judge whether or not someone's up to no good. You know, I am a pretty good judge of character, so I can tell if they're really going to be clients or if they're going to cause me trouble. I am here to tell you that you cannot judge a book by its cover. Doing so could cost you business, or it could cost you your life. We're going to play a game. I used to ask a question, you know, what's a physical characteristic of someone that you are afraid of? I would get everything from motorcycle gear, you know, tattoos, a lot of piercings, if they're scraggly, unkempt looking, or, you know, a guy or more than one guy. So I decided to take a different approach. So let's say you are the real estate agent who has determined that you are a pretty good judge of character. You can size people up or down and determine whether or not they mean you harm. I'm going to show you a couple of pictures. I am going to ask you to type in the chat section the name of the person in the picture. The question is, let's say you have an upscale luxury listing. Let's say this fella showed up to your upscale expensive listing, and he showed up and you are the agent who is judging a book by its cover. So based on what you're looking at here, you have to make a decision whether or not this fella can afford this mega mansion, this luxury property. Who has written in the chat section the name of this fella? Do we have any answers?
Not yet.
Okay, I'll give you a half a second here.
Sam
keep in mind-
Walton.
Who said, say again?
Sam Walton?
Exactly. That is Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, one of the richest men in the world. And that is how he showed up. I had an agent say that Sam Walton, whenever he was out and about, he never even had 50 cents on him to buy a cup of coffee. So you're the agent who can judge a book by its cover. He pulls up in that truck, and this is how he showed himself around town. He pulls up in that truck, dressed like this, and you are making the decision that he can't afford your house. It just cost you business. Take a peek at this fellow's picture. Everybody knows who this is. Somehow it surprises me, but everyone knows. Type in there who this is.
Bundy.
Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy.
People, for some reason, people always know Ted Bundy. Who can tell me how they describe Ted Bundy, who, by the way, was a notorious serial killer? What are some of the words, type it in chat, what are some of the words used to describe Ted Bundy?
Charismatic.
Yes,
Normal looking, clean cut, intelligent.
yes, yes, and yes. Charismatic, clean cut, nice looking, charming guy. The people who judge that book by its cover, it cost them their lives. Think about how he did what he did. He would wait in grocery store parking lots. He would put a fake cast on or have a cane or a crutch. He would ask ladies to help him. And that's how he tricked them, because those women judged him. Oh, he's okay. He looks harmless. So they judged that book by its cover, and it was not good. Criminals know how to assimilate. They know how to look where they don't raise a lot of suspicion. They know how to get us to trust them. Take a look at these folks. She's a little cutie pie. Just looks like a regular neighbor. Just everyday people. They're all serial killers. And this little cutie killed at least 6 people. You can't judge a book by its cover. So you're saying, Tracy, how are we supposed to determine who means us harm? What are we supposed to use to keep ourselves safe? I don't know how many of you all watched Oprah. She used to have a guest on named Gavin DeBecker. Gavin wrote a book called The Gift of Fear. In the chat, I want someone, more than one someone, to tell me what tool we all are born with that will keep us safe. What is the gift of fear that we all possess? What do we call that? So in the chat, let me know what we call the gift of fear the tool designed to keep us safe.
Intuition,
Thank you. Anything
your
else?
gut.
Okay. Intuition, gut, instinct, sixth sense, flight or fight. Some even call it spidey sense. Every animal in nature is born with that gift. The sole purpose of your gut, of your intuition, is to keep you safe. It has no other agenda. It exists solely to keep us safe. The problem is that out of all of the animals in nature who possess that gift, humans are the only ones who ignore it. And we ignore it for a number of reasons. We ignore it because we don't want to hurt someone's feelings. We don't want to offend someone. We want to be nice. That voice comes to us when we are in danger. If you don't hear anything else I say today, you must hear this. Listen to your gut. Respect that voice. Get out of the situation. If you have to come back and apologize later, so it goes. But you must trust your gut. Got an opportunity to talk to an agent, and yes, I talked to a lot of agents. She had, let's see, I'm talking gut. She was going to show a doctor an expensive property. She told the other agent, both of these are veteran agents, both have been in the business about 20 years. She told the agent on board desk or board duty, I'm probably dating myself. And she said, let me know when my client gets here. So she goes back and waits for the doctor to get there. The agent on board duty sees a guy come in with a lab coat on. She goes back, she said, your client is here. She said, oh, great, I'm going to go show him now. She said, but wait, I've got a really bad feeling about him. How well do you know him? He said, oh, I haven't met him before. I got a call and I'm just going to work with him. We're going to go look at houses. He said, can you please wait? Can you check him out first and then go show? She said, I've just got a bad feeling. She said, oh, you're so silly. She went to go show the doctor houses that afternoon. Later on that evening, she got a phone call from the doctor. And she said, wait a minute, this call doesn't make sense. He said, what are you talking about? She said, this is weird. You're talking as if we never met. He said, this is weird. What are you talking about? We've met. She said, I spent the whole afternoon showing you properties. And now you're talking to me as if we never met. You know, you had on your lab coat, you had your name tag on, we looked at houses. He said, 2 weeks ago, someone stole my lab coat from my office. It wasn't me. At that point, she went to the other agent. She said, what did you see that I missed? The other agent said, at the time, I had no idea. She said, all I know is that my gut was telling me something's wrong. She said, it was an overwhelming feeling. I knew there was a problem, but I couldn't put my finger on it. She said, but after you left and I had time to sit for a while, she said, I noticed you had on a lab coat. I'm asking you all, have you ever been in a grocery store and seen a doctor walking around with his lab coat on? No. What about pumping gas with a lab coat on? Doesn't happen. She said, the final thing is, when he asked for you, he put his hand on the counter. His fingernails were absolutely filthy. How many of you all have ever seen a doctor with filthy fingernails? It doesn't happen. The moral of that story is if your gut is saying something's wrong, listen to it, respect it, whether or not you can figure it out up here yet, not for you to do. Your goal is to get out of the situation. And then later on, if you figure out what's going on, you can always go back and apologize or make up a story or an excuse. But again, this is the number one thing. You are already born with a tool that can keep you out of danger. This book ought to be required reading. So let's talk creating a safety plan. Let's talk about some actionable practices. How to create a safety plan. Keep in mind that whatever safety plan we talk about, it needs to be consistent. It needs to be across the board. That keeps you out of trouble, keeps you out of fair housing trouble, because if you have a safety practice for one, you need to have a safety practice for all. You don't pick and choose who you decide to screen, or if you take certain practices or certain steps with some people. The way to stay out of trouble and the way to stay safe is for one, for all. That way, the time that you get in trouble is when you relax. It's like, just this one time, you won't do it. That's typically when you get in trouble. So make it a consistent part of your business. And I'm going to tell you how to weave in these safety practices with your everyday business. It becomes second nature. We don't have time to go through all of the 10 leading edge realtor safety tips that could save your life, but we're going to go through some of them. And again, I am going to give you the link to find this article. So when you have some spare time, you can catch up on these articles. Not only that, they're actionable. You can learn from them, share them in your sales meeting, share them with your team. You can learn from them, and you also can share them with other agents who may not have made it to our program today. And again, that one was written for the close, and I'll give you a link at the end so that you can find everything in one place. We unfortunately have to talk about the dress code, and we're talking business, and it is sad to have to talk about the dress code, but we must be realistic. That means male agents, female agents, save your fancy, expensive jewelry for special occasions. I did a new agent orientation, and I had a real estate agent who was a retired kindergarten teacher. She just got her license. She said, I am so excited. She said, I get to wear my fancy jewelry that I couldn't wear in the classroom. I can wear my heels. And I had to say, no, you can't. There's already a bullseye on you all as a real estate agent. So save fancy, expensive jewelry for special occasions, not when you're working. Ladies, high heels look good on you, but they're hard to run in. Again, sad to be talking about shoes, but think about the story, some of the stories that I've told. Think about being in a property with a maybe potential consumer buyer, or even a seller. You're in a property with them, and let's say you feel uncomfortable and you know you need to get out of there. Imagine if you walk into a room or a bedroom first, they walk in behind you and they close the door. You are now trapped. Now you have to figure, how do I get out of this space? Whereas if you have on flat heels, flat shoes, you can get out in a hurry. You don't have to worry about tripping or falling. You can move in a hurry. Even you're in your cars an awful lot. What happens if you're stranded on the side of the road and you need to walk for help because you don't get a cell signal, you're out of gas, whatever it is? Hard to do in high heel shoes. I was talking in Knoxville. I had a real estate agent at this point pull off her stiletto, held it up, and she said, this is a weapon and I know how to use it. So in that situation, she was prepared to use her heels as a weapon. Most aren't. So in those cases, you need to make sure you have shoes that will allow you to escape in a hurry. I'm going to show you two screens. I want you to look in every single box. Look at the names in those boxes. Tell me what you notice. Do you see a trend? Do you see a pattern? I'm going to turn the screen, continue looking at the names in those boxes. And when you notice a pattern or a trend, I want you to type it into the chat. Tell me what you notice here. Let me know when it hits you.
Men.
Exactly. Thank you. Every single one of those names are male real estate agents. David Abbasi was an agent during Safety Month in 2016 who was killed while he was looking at a property in Atlanta. Ryan Vega, a real estate agent in Las Vegas, who was stabbed in the neck. Same year, Safety Month. He survived. Sidney Cranston Jr.'s body was found after 18 months after he met a client who he did not know. Lance Gamble was a real estate agent sitting in front of a property in North Carolina who had a gun put to his head as he sat in the car waiting for his client. And this agent, Brian, and I don't know Brian's last name, but if you look at the NAR safety videos last year, they interviewed him. He said, I'm a big guy. I never thought it happened to me. He shows the wounds, the bloody wounds on his head from when he and his wife showed up at a property. She waited for him in the car. He went inside. He was ambushed and badly beaten, but he survived. Again, you can see a story, powerful story on the NAR website. Frank Wayman, a real estate broker owner in a small town in Missouri, who said he let someone in his office and they pulled a machete on him. David Stocco was the very first agent, the very first slide I showed you all, who was managing a property who was killed on site. And then these are the agents that I talked about. I don't think I talked about Stefano Barbosa, who was a real estate agent in front of his listing, walking away from the listing when a car pulled up and at gunpoint, the driver said, get in. Took him to 2 ATMs where he got $500 from each. After he got the $1,000, he shot and killed him. That was in 2021. And Christopher was the last agent who was murdered. And until the last two stories that I talked about, the house sitting and the agent in Vegas, all of these crimes were against, the most recent crimes were against male agents. I wrote an article for Realtor magazine about the 4 ways male agents put themselves in danger. That article was the most read article of the year in 2017. It took off like no one expected. And I think it's because it's a topic that we don't talk about. I remember it seems like everyone thinks that agent safety is all about female agents. I had a class, a pretty full class, and I noticed there's only one guy here. And then when I started talking about safety, he got up and he left. And then everyone said, well, he thought this was for he thought it was for the female agents. Based on these stories, he is the one who needed to be there. Male real estate agents put themselves in danger. And I asked, when I interviewed them, just like, why do you all not take safety seriously? I heard everything from the machismo attitude, nothing's going to happen to us. How many times did I hear male agents say, I'm 6'2", I'm 220 pounds. I don't want to hear your weight. Don't need to know your height. That has nothing to do with it. And then I had an agent, he said, look, we're just stupid. I didn't say it, he said it. But the bottom line is that for some reason, male real estate agents think that their role in safety is to accompany the female agents. I'm here to tell you that these crimes are happening against male as well as female agents. And if you need someone to accompany you, it doesn't have to be a male agent. It could be 2 female agents. It could be a male and a female. It doesn't matter. Criminals typically are just trying to avoid witnesses. So you can get another agent, regardless of gender, to accompany you. I got an opportunity, and again, I'll give you all the link. I got an opportunity to write an updated version of this article last year for RIS Media. And again, when I give you the link, you'll see I've written several articles for RIS Media as well. Being a safety expert, I try to take a different angle than other people are talking about, since this is all that I do. So not only did I talk about the most recent crimes against agents in this article, I talk about actionable tips. So again, I want you all to share these articles with agents who didn't make it here today. One of the benefits of being a real estate agent is that you're independent contractors. You set your own schedule. No one tells you where to go. No one tells you what to do. So therefore, there are times when you are working and no one has a clue where you are. That's a mistake. Someone needs to know where you are at all times, without exception. Imagine this afternoon you go to show, let's say from 5 to 6, okay? I'm a couple hours ahead of you all, so I'm trying to be realistic. So someone goes to show, you go to show, and you don't tell anyone because you don't have to. You're an independent contractor. No one tells you what to do or where to go. Let's say an hour or 2 past the time you're done, you're not home, you're not at the office. 2 or 3 hours pass, you're not home, you're not at the office. Number one question, does anyone even know you're missing? They have no idea because you never told anyone where you were going to be. So let's say finally someone decides to start looking for you and they realize you're missing. Do they even know where to start looking for you? No idea at all. I'm going to talk about ways to use technology to make sure your whereabouts are known at all times. And it's something you're going to incorporate in your regular business practice. There are forms on the National Association of Realtors website. And back way in the olden days, I wrote an article that has a link to all of those forms. So that way you don't have to search the site. You go right in that one article, you find the link. The most important form in there that I want to talk to you about is the agent information form. Now keep in mind, you will have a client information form. You're going to have the itinerary form, but the agent information form is the one I want you to pay attention to. And this is especially good if you're a broker or manager and you're on with us. And if you're an agent, share it with your broker or manager. The agent information form allows you to talk about any medical conditions, any situations that you have that may be of concern while you're working. I was in Oklahoma and I had a broker say that she had an agent in her office who had diabetes, a severe case of diabetes. And she said he passed out one afternoon in the office. Because she knew of his medical history, they were able to get the right kind of help to him in a timely manner. So if you have allergies or any kind of medical condition, This form is where you put that information, and you're going to share it with your broker. You're also going to put your emergency contacts. Who do they call if something goes wrong? And then you're going to also list the make, model, the color of your vehicle, the license plate number. If something were to happen to you and law enforcement officials goes to your broker and says, you know, hey, what kind of car do they drive? Time is lost if they're not able to give them that information and in a hurry. So very important to have that agent information form updated. Again, you'll get a link to these articles, or you can find that agent information form, and it needs to be updated at least a couple of times a year, every 6 months or so. Does anyone have any questions before I move on? And while you're typing any questions you may have in the chat, I forgot to give a disclaimer. I'm a natural fast talker, and I typically have a whole lot of information in a very little time. And when I record myself, I remember looking back thinking, I don't breathe between sentences. So I'm going. So if you have any questions, you can always address that. I think you said in the question and answer section. So if you'll go to the question and answer section, let me know if you have any questions on anything that I've covered so far, or something you want to hear. That way I can let you know if it is coming up. So if you'll let me know if anyone has any questions before we move on.
No questions at this time.
Oh, good. That's a true sign that I talk a lot, maybe a little too much, but it is what it is. Okay, let us talk a little bit about technology. And speaking of technology, I mentioned that I'm going to be speaking at the NAR conference again this year in Orlando. I'm doing a session about technology designed to keep agents safe and to keep the real estate community safe. So I'm always looking for what's new and what's innovative in the technology world, and I hope I get a chance to see you all. But for today, let's talk. You all have a device that you carry with you that you could not live without. You can't do business without. You know what I'm talking about, your smartphone. If anyone here has ever lost a smartphone, it's like the end of the world. I think that's what I had an agent say. It's like life is over. It's the end of the world. So let's talk about what to do if you lose that small business device that keeps us connected, keeps us in business. I lost my phone for the very first time. I want to say last year, a couple of years, the years blend in. What I did is I went home, got on my laptop, and it's like, find my phone. So I asked Google to help me find my phone. If you have Chrome, the Chrome browser on your phone, on your laptop, as well as Google Maps, you're all connected. And I remember back when this all first started, if you would walk into a restaurant or somewhere, you would get a pop-up that says, hey, Google wants you to review this place. And I remember thinking, this is so invasive. You know, how rude, no privacy. Now I appreciate it. And we all kind of just take our privacy for granted, knowing that there's no such thing as privacy. So I typed in, find my phone. I got a map of every single place that I had been with my phone. I got a timeline, not only a timeline, but that map. And I go a lot of places. For whatever reason, I was not able to locate my phone. I don't know if the battery died or if they removed the battery. But after I decided that I'm not going to be able to find my phone, I told Google to erase my device. And that's especially important for you all if you have client information on your phone, bank information, any kind of information that you don't want in the wrong hands. At this point, you're erasing your device when you realize you're not getting your phone back. So that way, they don't have your information as well. You can also play sound. And I remember in the place where I was, it's like, somebody here has my phone. And if I had the presence of mind at the time, I would have grabbed someone's phone and I would have gone to my Google settings and I would have said, play sound. And it will ring your phone, even if it's on silent. So I would have been able to recover my phone if it was in fact there. But even if you lose your phone around your house, this is an ideal tool to use. Give me a yes or no in the chat if you use Google Maps. So a yes or no, do you use Google Maps either while working or just getting around town or traveling at all? Let me get an idea of how many of you are using
Yes.
Exactly. Google Maps is a lifesaver. And again, I use it even around town. I travel across the country. I prefer not to fly. If I can drive, I'm driving. I'm using Google Maps. What a lot of people don't realize is that Google Maps has so many safety and security features built in to not only get you where you're going, but to keep you safe while it does so. So let's talk about the location sharing. I told you all, there should never be a time when you are working when someone doesn't know where you are. It could be an adult child, it could be a spouse, it could be another agent, your broker, it could be a receptionist at your brokerage. It doesn't matter. This is especially important, especially if you use Google Calendars. I know a lot of real estate agents are sharing a Google Calendar. So that's step one. A Google Calendar means someone knows your schedule. If you're showing clients, they know you're showing clients. This is the next phase. So when you are searching for your location, it's going to tell you how long it takes to get there. It gives you an option to share the trip progress. So you get to go to your contact list, and there's my sister Stacy. You get to go to your contact list and you get to decide who can see your location in real time. So let's say I pick my sister Stacy, let's say I pick my daughter Tara. I get to limit the time frame that they can see where I am. I had an agent who says, she said, I just leave my location on 365 days a year, 24/7. She said, my husband and my son has my location. I don't have to worry about anything turning it on or not. She said, they know where I am. Then I had an agent say, I am not telling my wife where I am at all times. He said, she may think I'm working, I could be playing golf. So he would be in the category of choosing the time frame to share your location with your designated contact list. So you may just share the hours that you're doing an open house or the time when you're showing. That means whoever you're sharing your location with can go to their phone because you've given permission, and they can look at your location in real time. I know you all remember when Google first started out driving around neighborhoods with those cameras on the car, and they've started doing it again. I guess they're updating. And then I remember thinking again, how invasive, you're taking pictures of my property. I'm not giving you permission. Something is wrong with it. There's a reason. So let's say someone realizes that you're missing. They go to your Google map, they log in, they can see where you are. They can take an extra step and do a street view. Now they can see the outside of the property. If you're in a park or a warehouse, they can see where you are. So Google Maps makes it easy to share your location. You can just turn it on and leave it on, or again, you can limit the time, but that's a tool in keeping you safe. One thing that Google Maps is doing is they're trying to expand and be more valuable. So they have a safety feature that makes it easier to manage wildfire related situations. So that may be of particular interest. So that means if you type in an address and there's a wildfire either at your destination or along the way, you're going to get a warning. Think about Google Maps can help you avoid life-threatening situations. And that means if there is a mass shooting, if someone reports in, this is where they're trying to get us to be more interactive. You all will get when you put a destination in, it'll say speed trap ahead, beware. So then that means someone had to report that speed trap. And then to this, I get people rolling their eyes saying that's defeating the purpose. That's anti-law enforcement or anti-highway patrol. But if you stop and think for a moment, when you get that notification on your Google Map direction and it says speed trap ahead, what do? You slow down, right? So that's a safety feature. It's a roundabout way of doing it, but it's a safety feature. So someone had to report that there is a speed trap ahead. Just like any other situation, Google Maps is asking us, if you see something that could be of danger, please report it. So they're trying to get a little more robust with it. So pay attention to that. Let us talk a little bit about that first meeting. I've told you that it causes me great grief when someone says, meet at a coffee shop for that first meeting. My sister, again, has been an agent for 34, 35 years. She says, I am a professional. She says, if I'm going to meet new clients, they're coming to my office. She said, when you go to meet your attorney for the first time, you don't meet your attorney in a coffee shop. You meet them in their office. If you're consulting with a doctor, she said, same thing. You don't meet them in a coffee shop. You do it in your office. Here's what I know. I know real estate agents are going to meet clients and it won't be in your office. Virtual companies, some of you don't have offices. So many people work virtually even before the pandemic. And you know that if you're working, you're not going to have time to spend a lot of time in your office. It's ideal, don't get me wrong, but let's just say that's not realistic for you. So when they say meet in a coffee shop, I see these images of coffee shops that are bustling, they're busy. And the whole point of that first meeting is to increase witness potential. This is where you tell the maybe would-be criminal, maybe consumer, my practice is that we must meet beforehand because I don't know you, you don't know me. So this is an opportunity to get to know each other. And that gives you peace of mind as well as safety, is for our safety. So again, you have that first meeting. You're letting them know safety is important to me. And I say, if you must pick a coffee shop, make it one where you are known. Make it where the barista says hi, maybe calls you by name. So the person with you knows, somebody's going to be able to identify me. This is not just another faceless person coming in. They're going to be able to identify me. You know what's even better? If you have an industry partner or an affiliate member, and if any affiliates are on here, if we have any lenders, title companies, home inspection companies, any of you all who are on here, who would allow a real estate agent to use your conference room if it's more convenient, if you would not mind putting that in the chat, say who you are, where you are, and yes, no, I will allow a real estate agent to use our conference room or our office if it's more convenient for that first meeting. So then I would like you all to take a peek at that chat section, and then it's going to be on the recording, and know that you have allies in this field if you must have that first meeting in real life. So let's say virtual. If you're one of those agents who found out that yes, you can live virtually, and all of us have learned that, some of us required it. Without virtual, I would be out of business. So if you have transformed your business and virtual is where it's at, you can say, hey, let's jump on a real quick Zoom. Let's jump on a real quick FaceTime or Google Duo, and let's get to know each other. We can take a real quick, a few minutes, and that way I can get to know you, you can get to know me, and I can find out what you're looking for. Now, here's where the productivity part comes in. Get an idea of what they want to see. And let's say they already have a house identified. Imagine how much more productive you can be if you are there on a Zoom and you share your screen and you show them the properties that they're interested in or ones that you want them to see in real life. Think about how much time you're going to save. Think about not having to jump in your car and burn $40 a gallon gas, driving around at houses they may or may not want, right? Use it to be more productive. You value their time, and then they will see that. So definitely consider virtual meetings, have it part of your safety plan. So let's talk about how you can have an edge during listing presentations. So here's another opportunity for you all to jump in. Who can tell me, excuse me, who can tell me what it is that you do to get an edge during a listing appointment? So you're going on a listing appointment. We're assuming that that person, that the seller has already interviewed a couple, 3 agents, and then it's your turn. Somebody tell me what it is that you're doing that is different than the other agents. What makes you stand apart? How are you more successful, or how are you successful? What are you saying during that listing appointment? I did not expect an answer. As a matter of fact, I had an agent, she said, I am not telling everyone. So I did not expect you to answer. I'm going to give you an answer. So I'm going to tell you how to use safety to have an edge when you show up for that listing appointment. So here we are. First of all, you've checked out your seller. So often we're so focused on checking out the buyer. We look at their social media, we Google them, we use apps. And meanwhile, before I forget, let me know if you all have Forewarn, if that's a safety app that you all use. So you've already screened everyone, right? You've screened your buyers, but most of you forget to screen the sellers. You're about to walk into a house with someone who's already there. You need to make sure they're legitimate too, right? We forget that part of it. So you've done your homework on the seller. You know they are who they say they are. So you walk in the door. You're not walking in talking about CMAs, marketing plans, virtual tours, how much money the net proceeds are. No, you're walking in and you're talking about safety. You have a safety checklist. And again, that's going to be a link that I'm going to provide to you at the end. So you're talking about safety. You're talking about security. You're saying, before we get started, I want to do a walkthrough of your home, and I'm going to do a security check. And this is what you're going to do. You're going to tell them to get rid of all pictures, any personal pictures of kids. You're going to tell them anything that personalizes the property. That means soccer schedules, church schedules, school schedules. People don't need to know who lives in the house or where you worship or where you hang out, where the kids practice. Erase your personal information from the property. Now, you've told sellers that before, and it's in one ear and out the other ear because they're thinking we're still living here. We want it to feel like home while we're here. Now you're using a safety perspective to tell them, we don't know who's going to be walking through your house. Get rid of everything. You're going to tell them to get jewelry out of jewelry boxes. You're not telling them to empty the jewelry box, leave a few pieces of, costume jewelry in, because if that jewelry box is empty, you know what, right? You know what they're thinking. The good stuff is here somewhere. The jewelry is somewhere. So leave a few pieces of costume jewelry in the jewelry box and the valuable jewelry in a safe somewhere off-site in storage. Hide it. It doesn't matter. You're also going to tell them to get prescription medication out of the medicine cabinets. You are telling them that mail, stacks of mail with the bank information, financial information, medical information, any pieces of mail, paper, out of sight, not only for aesthetic reasons, but you don't know who's walking through the house and they may steal it. They may steal your personality. They may steal your identity, and they may also steal your medical identity information. So you're telling them things no other agent's telling them. Other agents are looking at the carpet, they're looking at the drapes or blinds and the flooring. You're talking to them about the very essence of what's important to them, the safety of their families. You're telling them to get valuables out of sight, the kids' devices that they just leave around, they don't think twice about it, the tablets, the gaming gear, the phones, the cameras, everything out of sight. You're talking to them about lighting, locks, landscaping, not just aesthetically, but landscaping, keeping it neat to make sure you're not providing a hiding place for criminals. Lighting, making sure that lights are on at night, whether their house is occupied or not. And you're explaining to them just leaving a porch light on 24/7 because you don't have time to think about it is making you more of a target. Because if criminals drive down the street and they see a porch light on in the daytime, they're assuming the house is empty or someone's on vacation. So these are conversations that you are having with the sellers. Keep in mind, we're not talking money, we're not talking marketing, we're talking about keeping themselves, their families, and their possessions safe. I guarantee you that gives you an edge. You're telling them not to allow people to show up and look at the house. I guarantee you, if you have a listing right now, I guarantee you, if someone shows up on your seller's front porch, maybe with a name tag, maybe not, with someone with them and says, I'm a real estate agent, and I'm going to show your property, may we come in? I guarantee you, your sellers are going to say yes. You need to have a conversation why that's dangerous and why that's a no-no. You're going to explain to them that if someone wants to see their property, tell me, what do you tell them? In the chat, real quick, what are you going to tell your sellers to do if someone shows up on their front step and they want to see the house? What do you tell them to do?
Have them call the agent.
Okay, if you say call the agent, you better be the agent who answers the phone, or you better be the agent who returns phone calls in a hurry, because they don't want to take a chance to lose out on a live one because you take a day or two to call them back. Any other answers?
Make an appointment with the agent. Basically, contact the agent.
Contact the agent, right. What about telling them to tell whoever's standing on their porch that you are going to leave the property, you're going to lock the door, and if they want to show it, they're going to have to access the lockbox. You're not losing out on anything. If they are true, legitimate real estate agents, they're in that house in a matter of minutes. So you need to have these conversations out loud. You need to tell them, if someone is standing on the front porch who says, I'm a cash buyer, they have a bag of cash dripping out of the bag, no, call my agent, and again, be the agent who answers the phone. So just, you're going to have that checklist from me, and then safety tips that you staple your business card to and you leave it with the seller. So that way, when they're trying to decide which agent they're going to use, which agent showed them the most concern, who didn't focus on money, but who talked about keeping their family safe. That's going to give you an edge. Yes, I wrote an article. I wrote an article for Realtor Magazine, and I talk about how to use this information to convert those listing appointments into actual listings, because you're taking an approach no other agent is taking. So you can find that article, but again, I'm going to give you a link at the end where you find everything in one place. So let's talk a little bit. Okay, we've got 45 minutes. Is time flying for you all, or is it just flying for me? But were there any questions from when I asked it about 10 minutes ago? No one had questions, right?
There was one question about whether Waze is comparable to Google Maps or not.
I have Waze, and I like Google Maps better because Google Maps is more interactive, but Waze does allow someone to track your location, same thing. But what I like about Google Maps is that it's part of the whole Google ecosystem, right? It's part of the Google calendars, it's part of the Maps location, and it's all intertwined. So you don't have to think twice. It's not another app. You have to go to another link. You have to click on. But Waves is, it is intuitive and it's pretty good, but I like the connectiveness of staying within the Google family, and also the finding my phone part of it and finding me part of it. So, but thanks for the question. Okay, proper way to show. How many of you real estate agents will never, ever show a basement or an attic? Now think about this. Think about if an attic is a converted loft. What if the basement is a man cave? What if there's fancy electronics in there and you need to show the features of this man cave? So the question is, do you go in a basement? How many times have I heard agents say, not happening, no how, no way? Let's say you're the agent who knows that there's a possibility that you may have to go and show an attic or loft space or a basement space. The proper way to show is to let the client always lead. The client will always be in front of you. So let's imagine this. Let's imagine you walk into a room and then your client closes the door, and now you're trapped. You have to think, how do I get out of this space? Whereas if you make it a practice, and after a while it becomes second nature, you don't have to stop and think, what do I do? Always let the client lead, which means nothing should ever block your escape route. Never, ever anything to get between you and the way out, whether it's the front door, the door you came in, always. And after a while, it becomes second nature. You don't have to think about it, but keeping in mind, nothing blocks your escape route. We've talked about ways for the seller to show that they never opened the door. Okay, let's talk about a topic that I used to remember. I remember thinking that this is a waste. I think a broker told me, don't waste your time telling agents not to put their pictures on everything because they're going to do it. So I realized that wasn't going to work. So here's what I'm saying. If you must use a picture, I ask one favor. Will you make it a professional picture, please? How many times have I seen a little soft, fuzzy, romantic looking over your shoulder picture? What are you selling? No, make it a professional headshot. And then recently I had someone says, Tracy, you have to explain what a professional headshot is. Really? Let's do it. That means it's from here up, from your head to your torso area up. You don't need a full body picture to show that you're a good real estate agent, do you? So make it just a right here headshot, nothing but your head, your shoulders. The picture shouldn't be the little tilting of the head. It shouldn't be the licking of the lips, none of that. A professional picture looking directly at the camera. You can have a professional smile, not the suggestive smile. We don't need that. Make it a professional picture. With that being said, I've heard people say, oh, with those sexy pictures, and I've seen them on Facebook and Facebook groups, the way you get 1,000 responses, 1,000 likes is to post the picture and say, is this a good headshot? Or do you all like our picture? And I've seen groups of women in their evening clothes and the slits, and it's too much. But here's what I'm saying to you. Regardless of what the picture looks like, we don't blame agents if something's wrong. We never say they're asking for it. No one asks to be victimized. That's bad behavior on someone else's part. Just because someone is dressed maybe in real life in a picture inappropriately or suggestively, no one's asking for it. So please remove that from your vocabulary. Now let's talk about pictures. I have seen some things. I'm going to show you some pictures that I've seen that are absolute no-nos, and talk about ways to make sure that you're not sending the wrong message. And I keep saying one of these days, one of these example pictures, the person in that picture is going to be sitting there, hopefully not in front of me because I can't fight and I can't run, but one of these days. But these are lessons learned, okay? So there used to be a group on Google Plus, and it talks about hot real estate agents. I can't even show you the rest of the page. Some of the topics, some of the pictures on there, I would get banned from the state of California. So I choose not to show you, but I'm trying to make a point here. This real estate agent, and if you know her, somebody help. This is in California, and she may be on her again. This real estate agent, and she was interviewed, so it's public information, said that her website visits went from 2,000 to 20,000, and she's okay with it. She has a bikini on in her billboard. So her goal is to get traffic to her website. Male agents do it too. So so often we always think that, female agents need to get it together. No, male agents too. And he says it. He says that even if it means pimping myself out, getting creative ways to get business. Now, this was the most recent one. This made national news for some reason. This agent said, female agents use their sexuality for business. Why can't I? So the problem here is, and the articles, the comments were fast and furious. Some were saying, if I'm a couple, I'm a male half of the couple, and he thinks he's, hot stuff, and he thinks he's all that. I don't want my wife around him. What if they're just showing I'm not there? No. Same thing with the female agent, and leads with sexuality, and she wants to be hot stuff. How many female consumers want their husbands or significant others around? It may be silly, but that's reality. That's some of the comments as a result of that. So the goal is not leading with your sexuality. Let's use your professionalism. I was in Vegas, and I had some of these ladies in my class. And she said, what's wrong with using pictures? I said, let me see your business card. So that picture on the top left is the image on the business card. And she gave me the website. This is the website. It says, call our hotline for any of our angels. My question to you is, what kind of phone calls do you think they get? So bottom line is, be careful with the image that you're sharing out there. You can't control who is going to call you, who wants to work with you, but you want to show a professional image, because you're all about business, right? I know that there are real estate agents who've been told, as part of our safety procedures, take a picture. Take a picture of who you're going to work with. Let them know you're taking a picture and that you're going to send the picture somewhere else. Every single time I ask real estate agents, are you going to take a picture of a new or prospective client? The answer is always what? No, we're not going to do it. So that information is falling on deaf ears. Agents are not going to say, hey, hold on, client, let me take a picture. If they did, of course, that would be ideal. It's great. You take the picture, don't let it rest on your camera. Have a procedure in place that you're going to send it not only to someone who will now have a picture of who you're with, but they need to already know who you're with, the information, the name, and the location. So just taking a picture is not enough. There needs to be procedures and steps in place. Here's what you can do. Let's say you pull up, and hopefully you have done your homework. You have vetted the prospective client, whether it's the seller in the house or it's a buyer pulling up to meet you. You can take a picture discreetly, if necessary, of the vehicle that captures the make, model, the color, and the license plate. That way, if something goes wrong, you have information to share with law enforcement officials. And that goes again, if the seller has a vehicle in the driveway, or if your clients are getting out of the car, you can do it discreetly. We're going to talk really quickly about words to avoid in advertising. In the chat, give me some words that you may use to describe a property that a criminal may see and think, ooh, perfect crime scene. So give me some words that you need to be careful about using when you're describing a listing with the knowledge that anyone's reading it and we don't know who's going to respond to it. So give me some of those words in the chat.
Secluded, vacant, private location, very private.
Isolated, all of those. Excellent, excellent. So just a step to be very careful when you're describing a property. Let us talk quickly about open house safety. I get agents who say they're not holding open houses no matter what. No matter what safety measures are in place, they're not doing it. Do you hold open houses to sell that house? No. 77%. Well, the old statistic, everything's different in the real estate world now. Used to be 77% of the open houses did not result in a sale, but you hold open houses for what? Lead gen, right? You want business from it. It's a business development tool. So for those of you who say you will never host an open house because they're too dangerous, understood. But for those of you who realize it's maybe a necessary evil of hosting an open house, let's talk about ways to do it in a safe manner. First of all, if it's your listing, you've already had the conversation with the sellers to get valuables out of sight. You don't want a phone call later that evening saying someone stole our tablet or our camera. How did you let this happen? You know, buried in the listing agreement, it says we are not responsible for anything that happens to your valuables while your house is on the market. You need to say those words out loud. Say it to the seller. I cannot guarantee that something will not happen. So that's why I'm advising you to get that expensive artwork out of sight, that gun collection under lock and key and storage off site. You are saying the words out loud about the jewelry, the medicine, everything. You're saying it out loud to them so they can never say they didn't know, and they can't call you angry even if someone else is holding the listing open or showing it. You've said it. And if there's a form that exists, and talk to your legal department in your company where you can have a simple form that says, I've been advised to get valuables out of sight while the house is on the market. And, you know, I waive liability for the agent, whatever it takes. It's already in the agreement, but just some way to let them know that you cannot be responsible for it. So, and if let's say you're holding someone else's listing open, their agent didn't have that conversation with them. This is where you get to say the same thing. Get the stuff out of sight because I can't watch it. That way, again, you don't get a phone call. But another thing that it does is it lets that seller know, this agent's looking out for me. And you know how that can pay off down the line inadvertently. So show that you are the safety agent. You are the agent who's always talking about safety. You need to introduce yourself to neighbors on either side and across the street. Whenever a house in my neighborhood goes on the market, my sister happens to be a real estate agent. I'm calling her, Stacy, how much? And she just happens to live down the street. I can look out my front door and see her house. So I can call her. Everyone else doesn't have a real estate agent in their family. So here you are saying, come look at this house, you know, and you are talking about the price of the house. Everybody's curious. So you're inviting them to come over. While they're there, that's time that you're not alone. So it's a safety tool. And again, if they want to sell their house and they want to know information on a property and they don't know an agent, now they know you. They know you know the neighborhood. So use it for business development tools. Agent valuables. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into an open house and then agents have their purse or laptop or tablet or phone in the kitchen somewhere on the dining room table. I remember one time an agent had her purse on the island in the kitchen. I walked into the living room. I said, what are you thinking? She said, well, usually I stick it under a cabinet. She said, I just didn't do it this time. All it takes is one time. Your house keys, office keys, car keys, all on your key ring in your purse. Now you have to explain to your broker as well as change the locks in your home. You'll have your ID, everything in there. Now you have to replace it. Now you have to go through the whole bother of canceling credit cards. Just don't do it. Anything of value, keep it in the car until you need it. Walk out, grab it, work on your tablet or your laptop, and go put it back when you're done. Do not leave your valuables trustingly unattended for whatever reason in an open house with people you don't know. You already know to lock up at the end, but you also need to make sure windows and doors are locked. If someone came through and they have bad intentions, if they leave a window or door unlocked and they can come back, they know there's a window of time from when you're locked up and you're gone before the homeowners come home. They can go through that open door window and within 5 minutes in and out with the items that they've identified. So definitely lock up at the end. Okay, fair housing discrimination. We touched upon this earlier. You want to make sure that you can never be accused of discrimination. I remember I was in North Dakota. I had an agent say, if I'm hosting an open house and someone comes in, and no matter how uncomfortable I am, no matter how scared I am, no matter how much in danger I think I am, she said, I am not allowed to leave, or I can ask them to leave because of fair housing discrimination. Is that true? No. Your safety is most important. You have the right to get out of a situation if you feel that you are in danger. But here's what you need to do. You need to be consistent. This is not where you feel you're in danger when someone walks in and someone comes in who looks okay, and suddenly you're not in danger. That's going to get you a lot of trouble. So what you need to do is be consistent. I have a real quick story, a couple of stories, and it just so happens that the agents who shared the stories with me are female, and the maybe would be perpetrators happen to be male. We have to keep in mind that perpetrators come in both genders. And so often people, if they see a couple, they think, oh, it's fine. I don't have to worry about them. It's a couple. Remember Bonnie and Clyde? They were a couple. Sometimes agents say, well, if it's a lady or a couple of ladies, we're good. Absolutely not. You need to be alert and aware of everyone. So anyway, this agent said that she sits where she can see people coming and approaching the property. She said that a late model car pulled up and a guy got out, clean cut, nice looking guy, nothing out of the ordinary. She said, but something told her she was in danger. She had that feeling in the pit of her stomach. The hairs were standing up on her arms, on the back of her neck. She knew she was in danger. She got up. She locked the door. So he came to the door. He's knocking, he's ringing, he's yelling through the door, open up. She said, I'm closed. He said, no, you're not. I just saw someone leave. She said, but I am closed now. She waited till he left, and after he was gone, she was closed to everyone. She got out of there. She didn't wait for someone to come along who looked okay. That would get her in trouble, right? She was closed to everyone from that point on. The other story involved an agent, again, another female agent, same thing, a late model car pulled up, nice looking, clean cut, regular looking person pulled up, right? She said, I felt like I was in danger, but it was an overwhelming feeling. So what she did is she said, come on and look around. You go look around. I'm going to step out on the porch. I've got to make a phone call. So he walked into the house and she's on the fake phone call saying, you're so close. You're right around the corner. Oh, you're just a couple of turns away. Come on, I'm right here looking out for you. He turned around in the living room, walked past her on the porch without saying a word, got into his car and left. He was not there to see the house. And let's say you are in a situation where you're hosting an open house, and I do believe they're back again. You're hosting an open house and someone comes in and you're a little uncomfortable. This is where you can create a witness. You can say, go ahead, sign in. And of course, if they're criminal, they're writing down false information. Although in one of these crimes, the criminal wrote down his real information. I forget which story I talked about, but they wrote down their real information. Anyway, so you're going to observe them to share information with law enforcement officials if necessary. You're looking for distinguishing characteristics, whether it's a mole or a tattoo, eye color, hair color. You're not looking for the baseball cap they can take off. You're not looking for the jacket they can take off, height, weight. You're looking for information to give the law enforcement officials. And then you tell them, go ahead and look around. I've got another couple out back, or I've got someone in the basement. I hope they don't startle you. They won't get in your way. Just look around. So you're giving the impression that there are witnesses. So let's say that you can't quite get away with this story because of the layout. In this situation, you're saying, look, I've got someone coming. They're not too far away. They've got 4 kids. They're kind of noisy. So you may want to look before they get here. You're giving the impression that you're not alone. Or you can say there's an agent around the corner, he or she's bringing their clients. So don't worry, I'm still here to answer your question, whatever it takes. Most important thing, be consistent. If you do something for one, you do it for them all. That includes if you have forewarn, any kind of, any other safety app or any screening tool that you use. If you do one, you do everyone. So let's talk about that other piece of marketing materials that we can use to build business. Yes, no. Who here loves contacting FSBOs? When you see a FSBO sign in the chat, yes or no? When you see a FSBO sign go up, How many of you all cannot wait to reach out to that FSBO? Yes, no.
No responses.
No responses. So you all aren't anxious, excited about converting that FSBO into a listing? Here's what I know. You may not be responding because the answer is no. You don't want to reach out to FSBOs because you already know they don't like you. FSBOs don't like real estate agents, or at least they don't respect you. They don't respect the work that you do. FSBOs have the mindset that we're going to save the commission. How hard can it be to put a sign out in the yard and save the commission and sell the house? How hard is this, right? That's why they're FSBOs, because they think they can do what you do. I am here to tell you that FSBOs don't know what they don't know. I have created a PDF for you. And again, you will get the link at the end and you are going to print it out. There are 13 safety tips there. You are going to staple your business card to this PDF. You are going to share it with every FSBO you see. Stick it in their door, mail it to them, hand it to them. You will not talk about business. You're not going to tell them I have a buyer. I can put it in the MLS. I can market it. I can do that. No, no, no. Hand them the safety tip sheet with their business card attached. It's going to talk about not letting strangers into their house, which is the very first thing they're doing. The minute they put the sign in the yard, you know there will be people who walk up and say, "Can I see your house?" A FSBO is going to think, why not? You're telling them the dangers of not doing that. You're going to talk to them about showing with a partner. Do not show alone. You're talking to them about the dangers of them letting anyone in their house and showing alone. You're telling them to get jewelry out of jewelry boxes, medicine out of medicine cabinets. You're talking to them about the things that I talked to you about. They have never thought about it. Didn't cross their minds. They're thinking about that commission they're going to save. Now you're telling them about the dangers of what they're doing, about the landscaping, about the lighting, about the locks, things they never thought about. They're going to think about the danger that they're putting their families in by trying to save a couple of dollars and letting strangers in their house. By the time they get to number 13, guess whose business card is going to rise to the top of the stack? You know, they've got a stack of business cards about this big of real estate agents who came along and says, I can sell it. Use this tool as part of, someone said they'll use it in their listing presentation. Use it whenever you see a FSBO, have them in your card, just jump out, stick it in their door handle, mail it. Use that tool to show FSBOs that you are looking out for their safety. And you know, I wrote an article about it, and it talks about how to use the tool. And again, a Realtor magazine, I'll make sure you have the link. Some of the lessons we learned from the pandemic, we stick with. For example, without Zoom, I'm out of business. Finally, the world is opening up, and I've been from DC to Virginia last week. I'll be in Oklahoma next week. I've been in Iowa. The world is opening up, but in between, I'm in California virtually. So you all hopefully have had virtual practices that you will continue doing. I know I will. So I wrote an article, and I'm not going to have time to get through it, but you can learn lessons from the pandemic, some lessons that you can continue to do. We have 20 minutes left. I want to make sure there are no questions that I have not addressed, because I am going to more than likely run right up to the top of the hour. We have a lot to cover. How are we doing on any questions?
No questions.
Okay, good. Again, that means I talk a lot. Okay, so let's talk about Facebook. A lot of us are on Facebook. When the National Association of Realtors surveyed real estate agents and said, which social media are you on? Most of them are on Facebook. Most of you are on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. But what you need to be careful is that there are criminals, and we call them social engineers. They're out there trying to trick you out of information. I have seen questions on Facebook. Show us a picture of your first car. What street did you grow up on? Here's the hashtag age challenge. What is your day, date, and month of your birth? I promise you, full entire birth dates were posted with agents posting their picture and their ages. Is it because they want to hear people say, oh my God, you look good for your age? Agents were doing it, their whole entire birth dates and their pictures as a part of a challenge on Facebook. There was the middle name challenge, you know, share your middle name. Social engineers work by tricking you into sharing information that you typically wouldn't share, information that they need to steal your identity, to hack into your accounts. If you get a security challenge, if you get locked out, and I change phones, so I have to go back and sign in a lot of different programs, it's going to ask specific questions. What's the name of your first pet? The school you attended? What city did you meet? That was also a challenge on Facebook. What street did you live on? This is information that you are unwillingly sharing just because you're a normal person, not thinking about the criminal who is looking to mine this information from you. These are security questions designed to get back into one of my accounts. Don't give criminals the information. Now, here is a topic that I am excited about. We talk about which social media real estate agents need to be on. Yes. How many of you all are on Nextdoor? Can I get an idea? If you type in the chat, yes. How many of you all are on Nextdoor right now?
We got a few yeses.
Okay. Everybody needs to be on Nextdoor for a couple of reasons. Number one, Nextdoor, I get an email throughout the day. If there are any posts, if someone's saying that their catalytic converter has been stolen, their car has been stolen, a burglary, if someone lost a pet, if someone sees someone suspicious walking down the street, if someone has a gardening question, I get those posts. Nextdoor is made up of over 265,000 plus communities, not people. Those are communities, those are neighborhoods. What is real estate focused on? Communities. Communities means apartment complexes. It means renters who may be buyers one day. It means homeowners who may sell one day. Nextdoor needs to be a social media site that you focus on when you're building your business. I saw this post, promise you, 2 days ago. Someone had a client that wanted to buy in a certain area. So many neighbors started responding that their house is going on the market. Look at that. Imagine as a real estate agent how you can add to the conversation. But here's what I'm telling you not to do. Don't go on Nextdoor or any social media saying, I'm a real estate agent, I can buy you a house, I can sell a house. No, 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 don't do it. What you can do is you can have your, you can jump in and share information, be a good neighbor. What Nextdoor lets you do is not only pick your neighborhood, but you can pick a radius of surrounding neighborhoods. I want to know if there's any kind of crimes going on, not only in my neighborhood, but within a certain radius, adjoining neighborhoods. What you can do is pick the neighborhoods that you want to form. Get to know what's happening in those neighborhoods. Nextdoor has people, there are groups on Nextdoor. I created a group. It's just like Facebook. I created a group for live music. Next thing I know, there are like 260 people. It's like, where did they come from? They were searching. They wanted what the topic was. Here's what I want you to do. I hear so many marketing gurus or advisors telling you all to be good neighbors, to be the expert in your neighborhood, to get on video, to interview small businesses in your neighborhoods. I know you've heard it. I know that you hear them telling you to provide a market report for your neighborhood. So think about it. Here in my neighborhood, the houses on either side of me have been on the market. The first thing I do is I call my sister Stacy, and the houses in my neighborhood have doubled in value, doubled within the past few years. I have no plans to move. I've been here 20 years. My sister lives down the street. My mom lives right around the corner. I'm not going anywhere. But when I found out that if I sold my house now, I could profit $150,000, I might think about it. Or there may be a neighbor here who doesn't have a tie to the area who may say, hey, maybe we need to sell. We didn't know. So I am asking you all to consider setting up a group on Nextdoor. Costs nothing. Set up a group, maybe the market report, Southern California market report, or whatever, Orange County market report. And in that group, this is where you post the content that you're posting on Facebook and Instagram, copy and paste it on your Nextdoor group page. Look at some of the different groups. You can just say the market report or housing values in the area. When people want to know if the house next door is on the market, how much it's for, now they know a real estate agent. There's no harm in asking you. You're putting that information there. I can't say it enough. There's going to be at least one agent in this group who's going to take the Nextdoor ball and run with it. And you can tell I'm kind of passionate about it because I see an opportunity here. People are talking about gardening. They're talking, and you can advertise on there, but you don't have to advertise. You need to be a good neighbor. This is where I saw a review of a small business in the neighborhood, and everyone's like, oh, wow, how nice of you. If you're tagging yourself as a real estate agent and you're doing that, what about the crimes, catalytic converter crimes? They're everywhere. You're the real estate agent. As an agent, I have access to a lot of professionals. Here's someone who installs those cages on catalytic converters. Good luck. Or someone has a theft problem. As a real estate agent, I work with a lot of security companies. Here's one I would recommend. So be of service. And then imagine when you start going out into the community, people will recognize your name and they will know you're the agent who's always trying to help out on next door. You see all this, the crime, but even if nothing else, for the safety of your home, your neighbors, to know what's going on in your neighborhood, crime reports, I know what's happening around me. So definitely take the time to do that. And then you can buy and sell stuff. It's like next door, except it's for people who are neighborhood oriented. So there was a real estate group someone set up. I don't know if they were active or not, but that's something that you can do. That's the group I set up, and people absolutely joined it without me saying anything. Now I just have to make sure I keep content in there. On your profile, you can put your real estate logo somehow, some way on the profile, put it in your information. That way people know you're a real estate agent without you having to shout you're a real estate agent. And then when they have questions about real estate, they feel comfortable because they see you all the time. If you have Ring does the same thing with their neighbors app, exact same kind of program. And it pulls communities together. It talks about the buyers. And so definitely if you have Ring, consider joining the neighborhood app, and they have testimonials about how it actually works. So I'm all over any tool that can help you be a good neighbor and get it out there that you are the safety oriented neighbor. Okay, we have about 12 minutes or so. We're going to talk a little bit about cybersecurity, cyber safety, because this is a big deal in the real estate community now more than ever. When the National Association of Realtors did a technology survey in 2021, what do you all think the #1 technology tool that real estate agents said that they must have in order to stay successful? In the chat, type the #1 technology tool that you needed. Think about it in 2021. What would that be?
Smartphone.
Smartphone? Most say smartphone. I've heard Google Maps, but what the survey says e-signature. If you think about it, e-signature, especially when you were virtual, you had no choice. E-signature was the way. It talked about MLS apps. It talked about social media and lock boxes. Do you all have Supra or Century Lock, or what lock box do you have?
Supra.
Okay, I don't know if most agents realize, but Supra has safety features. It has a timer. It has a way that when you check into a property, you can alert your contact list that you're there, and you can set up a specific a timer that if you don't respond within a certain time, that your contact list will get your location and they will know that you're in danger. So definitely utilize all tools available. So if we talk about cyber security, what they found is that a lot of brokerages, in order to keep agents safe and to keep the information safe, is brokerages are sometimes providing technology tools for agents. And we'll talk a little bit about what those might be. When it comes to cybercrime is the result of human behavior. That means you cannot be a victim without your participation. In order to be a victim of cybercrime, you have to do something, whether it's click on a link, whether it's download something, whether it's respond to an email, whether it's to email someone without double checking on the email signature. You play an active role in whether or not you're going to be a victim of a cybercrime. What I say is you need to pause, stop, and think before you take any action. Cyber criminals are coming at us in our Facebook Messenger and our text messages now. It used to just be emails. They're calling us in the emails. I got a text message that said your PayPal password has been compromised. Click here to reset it. My finger was heading to that bright blue link until I stopped. Like, wait. I went out and I looked at the actual PayPal site. All was well. So you need to stop before you click on anything, before you download or respond to anything. What you need to know in the real estate world is that the FBI says that the business email scams account for over $1 billion, even though the percentage is just 5%. And that's because of the real estate community. Think about the size of your transactions. The business email compromise was how a lot of the crimes occurred. Think about wire fraud. How did they get those wire fraud instructions? By email. Here's what you need to know. I know you all probably have a disclaimer that when you're working with a client, you make them sign off saying, I will not respond to any requests for changing wire instructions without talking to my real estate agent. If you go to the nar.realtor website, there is verbiage that you can copy and paste that goes into your email signature with that warning about not responding to any request for wire fraud, for wire instructions. So copy and paste that in your signature. Every outgoing email will have that warning for your sellers, for your buyers, whoever, that they are not to respond to it. There was a consumer who wired $150,000 as part of a transaction, and he lost it. He found out it was fraudulent. Do you think that stopped him from suing the agent and the broker and the mortgage, the lender? It did not. So he sued them for $150,000, the dollar amount of his loss. Can't stop the lawsuit, but what happens if that agent was able to show that every email communication says, do not ever wire money without talking to me or without certain procedures? What if you can produce a form, a disclosure or a waiver form where you're saying, I will not wire money because my agent told me not to, and surely more legalese than that. But so you need to have the conversation with them. And I'm going to talk to you about a way to protect yourself from going out of business, because if you can't write that $150,000 check, if you lose that lawsuit, you're out of business. One of the things that you need to watch out for is email. Free email accounts, they're easy. We can pull up them on our phone. They're easy. Criminals think they're easy too. That's why they like to hack them. So email accounts, the Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, all of those are a no-go. You need to use your business domain. It could be agent at Century 21, agent at Keller Williams, whatever your real estate company is. When criminals see the free email accounts, they're thinking, oh, this is going to be easy. When they see a business domain email account, they're thinking, I'll bet that real estate company has an IT department. This is not going to be easy. So the key is using your business domain email. And I would imagine that brokerages would require real estate agents to use your brokerage domain email, because that information, if your account is ever hacked, then you have to go to your clients, your consumers, your sellers, your buyers, and say, I know I emailed you information, we've shared information, someone hacked my account, all of your information is out there and I don't know where it is. Don't be that agent. So use your business domain account. And then you also need to know, and this again is in California, you all may be familiar with this agent, someone changed a couple of numbers in her email account, and I'm guessing it was a free email account, and they caused havoc. They sent out horrible emails and she had to work to repair her reputation. So if you have a business domain email, it's hard for them to add a number or letter when it has the business domain. So again, pause, stop, and think before you take any action. When you get an email, Amazon, used to be you could spot the fake emails because they were so poorly written. Grammatical errors, punctuation errors, no more. Criminals have Grammarly. They do spell check, and the emails are well written. This is one I got just the other day. And I know you all also get these, thank you for your purchase. And the first thing you're thinking is, I did not pay that. Let me click on this and find out what they said I ordered. No, don't do it. Go to your PayPal account. And of course, you will see that you did not order it, but they know that people will automatically press that button, press a link. Don't do it. You need training on fraudulent emails, links and signatures. Today was a compilation of my programs. I have a whole entire technology, scam, fraud prevention, social media, safety program, a whole afternoon of it for CE. I can't touch upon it all today, but today, hopefully I gave you enough tools to think twice and how to recognize any fraudulent emails. Okay, we're getting close to the end here. So let me talk a little bit about why it's important, first and foremost, to have a password. And if you're not using sentences, full, complete sentences as passwords by now, you're simply setting yourself up to be victimized, because criminals or looking for those easy to guess passwords. It needs to be a full entire sentence. And what I say is start your sentence with a capital like you normally would, end it with punctuation. It could be an exclamation point, a question mark, or a period, but that makes what's inside a little more harder to guess. A full entire sentence. I love chocolate, exclamation point. Okay. Or if people know you, they may be able to guess that one, but you get the message. Make it a full entire sentence. I love when the leaves are falling in the fall, exclamation point. You get it. Anyway, two-factor authentication. A lot of times you're thinking, what is that? It's a bother. I just changed phones. And again, I'm logging back into my accounts. If it says you forgot the password or you need to log in, you need to prove that it's you. It's 2 steps. So I'll say, I want to log in. They'll say, look at the message on your phone or your email, and then enter that code here. It's an extra step. But what I like is I know the criminals will not have access to my information. Definitely enable two-factor authentication. If you have a smartwatch, whether it's Apple, I have a Galaxy, the Samsung Galaxy, it is a safety tool. You can push on the button and it will send a message to your contact list, an SOS to your contact list, along with the location. Apple watches have fall protection, so does your Android watch. If someone, I saw a story where some guy was in an accident, he wasn't home, his wife got a notification that he had fallen, but what it was the jerky movement of the accident. She was able to look at his location and find him at the scene of the accident because of the jarring motion of the accident. So definitely spend some time on the settings, not only of your smartphone, but your smartwatch. Here's one of the most recent scams, and it's a QR code scam. We all had to learn to live with QR codes during the pandemic. But what criminals are doing now is they're faking QR codes and putting them where you would think regular, authentic codes would be. In restaurants, taking stickers and putting it over the restaurant security code. So you need to make sure the edges are not raised, that it's not a sticker. If the response is to do something in a hurry, you need to respond in a time frame, that this is an emergency, do it quickly, click. No, if it doesn't match, it doesn't fit, it's a no-go. So criminals are horrible, and they're thinking of so many different ways to get your information. Who would have thought of a QR code scam? And then we have like 2-3 minutes left. Just to really quickly talk about Zoom data breaches. There is a whole entire dark web with information where criminals are looking for your information to steal your identity, email addresses, personal meeting IDs, your PIN numbers. What I want you to do when we get done is to go to this last box, haveibeenpwned.com. There is no vowel in there. Go to that box and type in your email accounts. You're going to get a list of websites, Canva, Salesforce, Poshmark, that have had security breaches, and they're telling you to change your password. So often you get that message and you think, I'll do it later. Do it now, because criminals have your password information and they're telling you to change it. So don't pass it up. Those of you who don't want to do a password, I understand there's a password locker, LastPass, that a lot of real estate agents use. That's a resource. As long as you know there's no such thing as privacy when you're talking in front of your Amazon, your Nest, you know what I'm saying, then know that they're always listening. And if you're talking about a client and you say their name, they may accidentally dial it. So you need to make sure you unplug those devices. When you have a free app, you are the product. You're not paying for it, but somebody's got to pay for it. You pay with your information. I was on Amazon, and on the top right, you see that arrow. I noticed that my microphone was being used. It's like, why? I clicked on the microphone. I'm always looking for that. And it says my microphone was being used by Amazon. Why? I can't complain because I have given permission for them to use it in return for the free app. So we're getting here to the top of the hour. Just to know that there are sites here that get your public information and they share it. These are the tip of the iceberg. You need to know what's out there about you. They have the age, they have who lives in your house, they have information on your property. Our cars are connected. So whenever you plug your USB into your car, if you're renting a car, you need to be careful because that information is stored in your car. And that scared me to death when I rented a car. I'm going to thumb through these as I wrap this up because I know this is being recorded. So this is information that agents need to know, and you can watch it on your during your time. And I always think 2 hours is a long time, but it's never enough. So just take a peek at this information, how to get these apps off your phone. Here's a free app, what do you call it? A virus protection free that you can download. Steps to take. I'm just thumbing through slowly. We talked about wire fraud, and we know if Barbara Corcoran can get victimized by wire fraud, it can happen to any of us. It's just a matter of being careful before you respond to anything. Any questions as I just get through these slides so we can wrap this up? If you're getting any robocalls, there's a device called RoboKiller, which turns it around. If someone's calling you a robocall, they'll start calling them. The app calls them, and the app makes their life miserable for a while. Make sure you all set up Google alerts, not only in your name, but set up a Google alert with every single listing that you have. That way, if anybody jacks the listing, any Craigslist frauds, you will know about it. You'll get an email, and you can warn your sellers to take proper steps. Ransomware, as long as you back up your device, you won't go out of business with ransomware because you still have access to the information. Cyber insurance is what I was talking about. If you're working remotely at all, you need to make sure that you have cyber insurance, because if you can't write a check when someone sues you, cyber insurance will cover that loss. Any questions?
No questions. Just everyone saying thank you for your presentation. I put the link in the chat from you, Tracy, with all of your resources, and then it will be emailed out to everyone tomorrow morning as well.
Okay, and I have, you guys are gonna think I'm crazy, but do I have it here? I have a QR code, but it's a good one. The QR code here is where you can find the articles that I talked about, the links that download the form, the FISBO form. You staple your business card to it, start using it. So definitely grab that. And I think you'll put the comment, in the chat section, the actual link if someone can't get the QR code to work.
Yes.
And okay, you can do that. And also you can email me and say in the subject line, Orange County request, so that way I know it's you and I know what you're wanting me to send to you. So feel free to email me or to use the QR code to request it, and you get it automatically. And I want to thank you all so very much for allowing me the opportunity to share all of this safety information, and then make sure you saw the buyer resource information. We talked about FISBO, seller safety. When buyers ask you if this is a good neighborhood, you can't answer it. Use something like Spot Crime, direct them to the police department, but give them the tools to find out the crime statistics on their own. So again, you're serving them and you're the agent leading with safety. And if there are no other questions, I want to thank you all so much for allowing me the opportunity to talk fast and share a lot of information.
Thank you so much, Tracy, and thank you to everyone for attending. Hopefully we see you on tomorrow's Safety Week session. Right. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks, everybody. Stay safe.